This episode is brought to you by Nespresso. Gift magical mornings with Nespresso Virtuo Pop. Compact and stylish, Virtuo Pop is made to meet every morning coffee craving. From espresso to coffee, hot or iced, at the click of a button. And celebrate the season with Nespresso's limited edition coffee flavors. Sweet almond and hibiscus, cinnamon and candied tamarind, and festive double espresso. Magic in the making. Shop the holiday gift collection exclusively at Nespresso.com.
Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I am Stephen Means, that's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis, and it is matchup game week for a team who has not won a Power 4 game in 11 months and hasn't won a Big Ten game in almost 12 months. But it is a matchup week. Here's what we're going to do this on the spot. We did an 18-minute video where we broke down Ohio State and Ryan Day's hiring practices. So we're not just going to rehash that because I feel like that makes that content unique. So go check out our YouTube channel at Buckeye Talk on YouTube. And we broke that down. It was a really nuanced conversation. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Here's what I want to do here. First half, we're going to talk about football. Second half, we're going to talk about Angry Ryan Day. He has another nickname on social media, but I'm not saying that into a microphone. Not a microphone that my job pays for, but that's what we're going to do. Football, Angry Ryan Day. Those are our two subjects. Everybody cool with that?
Are we going to talk Facebook AI posts?
Yeah, we can fit that in. We can talk. Okay. I guess let's start there. Let's start with the maze thing he did, I guess. That was intriguing?
So you want to start with non-football during the football segment?
Well, no. Well, because this doesn't fit into either category because he's not mad about it and it's not really football, but it is football because football made it possible.
True. So there's a great story about Ryan Day going through a corn maze and a haunted corn maze and all that stuff. Him acknowledging the AI slop out there specifically on Facebook about him is maybe one of my favorite things because literally every time I open Facebook, it's something about how Ryan Day has adopted 7 kids and brought them into their home. And it's what? And then you read the comments and everyone's coach is so inspiring. And I'm how do you not realize that this is AI generated? It's cartoon photos of Ryan Day with kids. And it's what are we doing here?
They literally look it literally looks like an episode of Family Guy or American Dad. Some of this is so bad. And it's just Ryan Day gave up his seat to an elderly woman on an airplane. And it's what are we? But then you're right. All these replies are people that are great going, Ryan. Proud to have you as coach of my team. It's yes. I'm glad Ryan has seen those posts.
Our friends at AL.com actually did a great, I think it was in the offseason story about Kalen DeBoer and Nick Saban, how this AI slop kind of became a thing. So I highly recommend finding that at AL.com. I think it was Michael Casagrande who wrote it. But yeah, Ryan Day said the AI hits or the posts hit at about 20%. So if you're on Facebook, just think, okay, 1 out of 5 will be true. And the one about him at the corn maze at, I forgot what it was called. When he was at the maze, that one's true. You can trust that.
I'm not sure what to do after that.
It was the Little Darby Creek, the maze at Little Darby Creek. They designed a maze after Ryan Day. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have been there. They've done corn mazes, shaped after Jack Nicklaus and Woody Hayes and a bunch of Ohio State greats. And they basically told Ryan Day, if you win a national title, we will design a maze after you. And they did. It's the photo of him, both hands in the air, celebrating national title. It's called Amazing Day, which clever, but it's spelled Amazing Day. And yeah, they have a haunted section too, where people jump out and recognize Ryan Day even though they're wearing a mask.
I don't know what to do with any of this information, like AI, and this is the second time he's brought up AI. He talked about AI when I asked him about quarterback development a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, they haven't figured out an AI thing yet to do it yet. And
it's the third time then.
What else did he do?
He brought up on his radio show once how they use AI to kind of help with analytics and stuff, and he thinks that one day people are going to use AI to come up with game plans. Maybe that's what James Franklin needed. He just ran out of time.
And one day, robots will play football, not people.
Hey, ChatGPT, how do I win a top 10 game?
I'm not even really sure how to transition us out of this. I'm not sure.
Okay, do you think AI would give Penn State a better chance than whatever's currently happening?
I think they would give us. I don't know. Let's ask. Let's ask our co-pilot right now. What should the betting line be for Ohio State, Penn State game? It's like 20.5 right now. Penn State money spread.
It opened at 17.5. Now it's 20.5.
Yeah, because we remember that Penn State has not won a Power 4 game yet this year.
The funny thing. Neither team played. They opened it at 17.5, and they're
right.
Like,
so we've had more. No, neither team played, but we had 2 weeks to think about it and went, wait a minute. No.
Vegas saw Ryan Day relaxed on a bye week going to a corn maze and was like, that's got to be worth 3 points.
Okay, ChatGPT is just going to tell me what it is. It's not telling me what it should be. It did. It said its pick would be 19.5 if AI.
Hammer the Nittany Lions. Yeah, hammer the Nittany Lions.
All right. I guess the other question you could ask the co-pilot is, who should Ohio State's starting right guard be on Saturday? Based off of his answer, Stefan, in real life and not in the, robot life. You see how I did the transition?
Yeah.
This is my favorite thing to do, is do a smooth transition and then completely ruin the smooth transition by acknowledging the smooth transition. Stefan, mark it down. Who starts? And then again, let's do it again. They play 60 snaps, which is what they're averaging this season. Who starts and what's the snap distribution at right guard?
So Ohio State hasn't played a game in 2 weeks. As we're recording, it's only been about a week and a half. And my answer in the past week and a half has been Tegra getting like 40-20 and then fully leaning in to Josh Padilla being the starter. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm back to like Tegra 40-20. Okay. The first name he said when he was asked about right guard was Josh Padilla on Tuesday. And then he talked about Josh Padilla only to set it up and say he's our 6th offensive lineman. He's solidified himself as like the 6th offensive lineman. And last I checked, there's 5 starting offensive linemen. So Tegra Shabola sounds like he's going to be the starter for this team, at least going into the Penn State game. I wonder how much of that is just a result of, trust in Tegra and kind of he's been there, done that. And we trust that his floor is only so low and it's going to be fine because, the left side of the offensive line is so good and Phillip Daniels will get back to, the Phillip Daniels we saw, pre-Illinois game. And how much of that is maybe Josh Padilla just didn't have the bye week that they were hoping for and he hasn't quite gotten there yet. And it makes me wonder if just down the stretch of this regular season here, if they're not quite ready for Josh Padilla, that it's going to be Tegra, maybe with some level of a rotation with Padilla. But Tegra's the one who's going to, get the majority of the snaps and be the starter. And then maybe when you have, a break between the Big Ten title game and whenever their first playoff game is, you can kind of reevaluate. I think I referred to this earlier where it's like Luke Montgomery didn't necessarily become part of the mix until the postseason, right? Like that's when that gap was when they were kind of really able to reassess a lot of things. So I wonder if we're going to spend the rest of the regular season with Tegra starting, Dia getting more and more and more on his plate. And then after the Big Ten title game, we reassess and we see in the playoff, all right, is there going to be a change or is it still just going to be Tegra at that point? So it sounds to me like they're not quite ready to make the starting change yet based on what Ryan Day said on Tuesday.
Mark it down, Gillis. 60 snaps. Starter distribution.
Tegra Shabola starts. Padilla 45, Tegra Shabola 15. I think this is we're going to play Tegra a series. We're going to play Josh a series. We're going to put Tegra back out there. We're going to put Josh back out there. And I think after like 3-4 series, they're going to say, all right, Josh, go get him. We were talking about this today a little bit, like off the pod, right, as we were kind of like leaving the Woody, just straight up benchings have been rare in the last year, 2-3 years. But, I brought up the Hinsman one before the Cotton Bowl where they made the change where they put Matt Jones at center. Like They haven't really done this a lot, but I think this is just one of those moments to where he got asked about the right guard position. The first name out of his mouth was Josh Padilla. And it wasn't just like a how is Josh Padilla doing? It was like a how do you feel about right guard? And then that was the end of the question. I think it was Spencer Holbrook at Letterman Row who asked that. And I think this is just one of those scenarios where the answer is right in front of you. You are not going to commit to it going into the game against Penn State because you're like, we want to see how this plays out in an atmosphere like that. But I think this is the step to making him the full-time starter. And I think what they want to do is they don't want to overwhelm him with starting. I think they want to put Tegra out there and then say, Josh, you're going to play. And if you look like you can handle this, then you're just going to play the rest of the way. And I think we are going to see a changing of the guard here at right guard. I think Tegra 15 to 45.
If they were playing Purdue instead of Penn State this week, who would you pick as a starter?
Tegra probably, but I would feel a little bit worse about it. I would feel a little bit worse that Tegra is going to be the guy.
Stefan, if they were playing Purdue instead of Penn State this weekend, who would you pick as a starter?
I'm sticking with Tegra as this team starter until proven otherwise. I've told myself I would stop, and then I didn't, and I'm just going to stop.
Yeah, that's fair. Tegra Shabola. PFF is not everything, so take everything with a grain of salt. 318 snaps, 54.2 PFF grade. That is 35th amongst the 38 players who have played a snap of football for Ohio State this year on offense. Josh Padilla in 79 snaps. PFF grade is 82.7. That is 6th of the 38 players who have played football on offense for Ohio State this year. Larger sample size for Tegra Shabola. You take that into account. Josh Padilla, 79 snaps, though you also understand that some of those snaps early in the year came at center, right? It's only recently where he's starting to play some snaps at guard, right? He's got 30 snaps at center, 49 snaps at right guard. So you take that into account as well. I do not think that Josh Padilla has been, what is that, almost 30? It's almost 30 points higher in a PFF grade than Tegra Shabola. I don't think he's been that much better than Tegra Shabola. And Ryan Day and Tyler Bowen don't seem to think he's been that much better than Tegra Shabola, or he wouldn't have been talking about him. He said he's not perfect. But even to the point of the question, Gillis, of the first thing he said was Josh Padilla, that's also because Ryan Day's not an idiot. He knows why that question's being asked at this point. And last week when we were asking that point, it was being asked of like, hey, is Tegra, are you going to bench Tegra? Were essentially the questions. This week, the questions are that they're playing football. Last week, it was, hey, are you going into this week thinking Tegra is no longer going to be your starting right guard? This week, the questions were going to be, hey, did you come to the conclusion that Josh Padilla should be your starting right guard? And the answer to both of those was no. We're not benching Tegra. No, we're not starting Josh Padilla. I agree with you guys. I think Tegra Shabola is going to start. I agree with Gillis, the premise of your split. I don't agree with how you got to that premise. I think if Tegra Shabola comes off the field, he's not going back on the field on Saturday. I think his leash is very short.
No, okay, so I'm going to cut you off. Is that you think Tegra is going to go out there and it's just Josh Padilla is going to be better, or is this a plan? Like, is the plan, if Josh goes out there and looks decent, he's the guy, or is this let's adjust to the knuckleball as it comes to the plate? Like, is this I
don't think it's like adjusting. It's just these are not ceiling conversations. I think I've said that this is not a ceiling. This is about floor. They don't have Quentin Nelson offensive line on the interior this year. So this is not about, well, if we play this guy versus this guy, is a difference between this guy is getting beat every single play and giving up sacks and giving up pressures versus this guy is an All-American future first round draft. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with floors and Stefan, you and I were talking about, is Tegra doing something where you think it's going to cost them the football game so far? No, he hasn't been great, but is he doing things that's going to cost you a football game? Is Josh Padilla doing things that are going to cost you a football game? If the answer with either of those two guys on Saturday at any point is yes, then you cannot play them on Saturday with the way that Ryan Day is talking about this game. The sum of Penn State's parts is not a good football team, but that doesn't mean there's not individual parts of it that aren't good. And they're good enough they're not good enough to beat Ohio State. They are good enough to make this something it doesn't need to be on Saturday, because historically, that's what Penn State does. this game becomes something that it probably never needed to be. Even if Ohio State eventually wins the football game, they've been tough outings. So when I say if Tegra comes off the field, he's not going back on the field, I mean, we haven't seen Josh Padilla typically till series 3. If you get through the first 2 series and it's like, we can't do this anymore, man, then Josh Padilla is going to play. That's what I'm saying. Like it's I think that the introduction of Josh Padilla, the Minnesota game, created a leash. And every week as Josh Padilla gains more experience and Tegra continues to have these moments, which are multiple, whether they're penalties or they're missed assignments, the leash gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And now we've reached the game that regardless of the way Penn State's season has played out, Ryan Day called this a matchup game. So there is barely a leash in a matchup game. You cannot risk something going wrong in a terrible situation and it like you're in the red zone and all of a sudden now you're out of field goal range. This should have been a 3rd and 2 easy conversion, but somebody missed an assignment on a block and so now it ends up in the TFL, so now you got to block, right? That's what we're talking about. Like you take a bad sack on first down, now it's 2nd and 17 all of a sudden because Julian never saw this guy coming because he got on him too fast, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's no leash in matchup games. And if Ryan Day is going to call this a matchup game, he's got to approach right guard like it's a matchup.
Stephen and Stefan, question for you guys.
Let me say this real quick before you ask the question. I think what Stephen said there is important too because I understand what you were saying, Gillis, of like if there's some kind of plan. I don't think Ohio State is or can treat this game like, okay, here's the outline of how, like, you got to play this game to win this game.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's how Ohio State's viewing it. This isn't Grambling where you say, okay, we can go 2 series with Tegra and then we're going to go 2 series with Padilla, you know, or like, I don't know, like
evaluate it at halftime or something.
Yeah. Or like in 2023, if we're talking about like the quarterback conversation, kind of how they approach that, like this is not, I understand they're 20.5-point favorites. I mean, they were 21-point favorites against Michigan last year. And I know there's obviously elements to that Penn State doesn't present, but like, I don't think Ryan Day and the staff are approaching this as like an open scrimmage type of game. I think who starts, as long as he's playing well, they're going to ride that guy. Like the reason I'm saying the split might be 40-15, it might be Tegra plays fine and Padilla gets garbage time snaps because they're up by 20 in the 4th quarter.
So the thing that I wanted to ask you guys, just because like I'm curious like as to where your heads are at. Like Penn State, I think you both said Tegra is going to start. You think Purdue? Do you think this is something that is happening, or do you think this is something that like is just going to keep evolving, like with Padilla, or is this just what it is the rest of the year? So I was curious, like Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, Michigan. Like I'm curious where you think that's going to lay.
I think they're going to rotate it. I just think Josh Padilla is what Ethan Inyalo was supposed to be in this role of they're both sharing the right guard position, and we can do this song and dance of every week of who we think is going to start and who we think is going to play more snaps by the end of the game. I think this is going to be a thing. Like, I mean, they won a national championship doing this, so it's not that absurd for them to use their 6 offensive linemen and actually play him and him not just be an emergency guy. I'm just saying for this specific game, I agree with you, Stefan. I think they thought somebody was going to take the job, and that's not what happened, clearly. Nobody took the job. So instead of somebody taking the job, I don't want to say they're rotating from a place of weakness, but they're rotating because they need to rotate it. But if one guy's playing better than the other guy, that's who's going to end up playing more snaps on Saturday. Whether it's if Tegra goes out there and he's mulling guys over, I think we still get to that 3rd series and Josh Padilla plays. But Tegra Shabola's first 2 series are going to decide what the split is.
Stefan, do you think this is do you think this is a future what we're going to look at, or is this like a Josh Padilla can just take the position and this might be what?
No, I think at this point it's going to be a rotation. My guess is they view it like they did last year, where they're like, hey, Tegra when playing 35 snaps is pretty good. Tegra when playing 60 snaps is not so much, and I think that's how they right, because they never had to rotate Serval between 2 spots. They could have started Serval at right guard. They could have started Serval at left guard, and we don't see Luke Montgomery enter the mix, right? I think the rotation was not because of anything Serval was doing at left guard. I think it's because they thought that rotating Tegra a bit at right guard would give them something better at right guard. So yeah, I mean, if I was going to predict that Padilla was going to be this team starting right guard for the Michigan game, I would have to see it against Penn State. I don't think Tegra is coming out of this rotation because I don't think Padilla's taken it from him. So if he hasn't taken it from him, then those guys are going to rotate, or Tegra's going to have a majority. Like I'm with you, Stephen. You're right. Like I probably was wrong in the assessment of like, you can't go into this with a plan. There probably is some sort of an outline, like the third series will be Padilla's, no matter how good or how bad Tegra Shabola is looking. If Tegra's playing great, though, those Padilla reps are like, hey, let's get him some reps. Whereas if Shabola is struggling, then it's like, hey, these Padilla reps are like for him to like maybe not come out of this game again.
It's the context of the reps, because it could easily, you've said this a lot of times, it could just be easy of Tegra Shabola is maximized at 35 snaps that in a way that once he hits a certain threshold, maybe it's just not as great anymore. So this is a way to offset that, right? But it could also be the other thing of he's not playing well, we're going to try the other guy if both guys have the same floor. The taking it part is an important variable. Tegra doesn't have to just lose the job. Someone has to take it from him. And that's the difference between having a floor and a ceiling conversation. Because if they have the same floor and the same ceiling, I'm just going to play the veteran, who at least I know has played here before.
It's like if Austin Cervell randomly started struggling, it's not like they're just going to put in Ian Moore because he's the next guy. Like, okay, well, Ian Moore better show that he's ready to play then.
Hartline used to say this a lot, because in 2021 is like the first time it was like really noticeable in a full season normal year that they weren't rotating receivers. And they could have rotated receivers, right? Your starters were Chris and Garrett and Jackson, and your backups were Julian Fleming, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Emeka Buka. You could have rotated those guys in, right? I mean, I don't know, 5 of those 6 are wide receiver ones in the NFL right now. I think you could have rotated those guys. And he always said this: if you can't do everything the guy in front of you is doing, why would I take the guy in front of you off the field? Because he's shiny? No. If you have to do everything in the job description, and Tegra's the weak link of the offensive line right now. Does right guard stop being a weak link because now you took a guy off of the field who's a 2-year starter and put in a guy who has 49 snaps at right guard? No, it doesn't change the equation. It's still the weak link. It's just maybe it's a less weaker link. I don't know, but I think
a fortified link,
huh?
A fortified weak link.
Yeah, maybe we're kind of talking in circles now, but that's like it's. You are right, Stefan. I think they thought in 2 weeks they were going to have a better answer at right guard, and they don't. Well, they don't. At least they don't have an answer that is yelling at them, screaming in their face with red lights surrounding it. Change what you are already doing through the first 7 games, and I guess we'll see if it costs Ohio State a game down the line here. I don't think it's going to cost them on Saturday, though.
And Ryan Day and the staff have shown us that if they're going to take out the veteran guy, it better be because do you start Jaden Ballard or Jeremiah Smith? I don't know. It's not just because Jeremiah Smith is like fun. He's also like God, like, and like that. And that's what's happened. I don't think Bo Jackson starting at running back is just a result of James People struggling. I think Bo Jackson's playing really well. That's when you put in Bo Jackson. And that's what we talked about with Lorenzo. It's like the debate was never Lorenzo or Jermaine. The debate was always Lorenzo or Devin. Do you trust Devin enough at corner to take the veteran Lorenzo off the field? You know what Jermaine can do. There's no questions about Jermaine. The question is, do you have Lorenzo on the field or do you have Devin Sanchez on the field? And it's why I have hesitations there. Like, if Lorenzo's healthy, I think they still might go back to starting him and having Jermaine just play on the outside because, now I think Devin is showing you more than Josh Padilla is showing you, but like that's the context of like what we're talking about here. It's like, if you're going to overtake a veteran with everything that we've seen this staff do, you better be really damn good.
And Devin had a role. We're asking a guy who, quite frankly, was at best third in line. I mean, he's jumped a guy. We're not asking Josh Padilla to jump one guy here. We're asking him to jump his second guy in a span of a month and a half, essentially, right? That's it. And that's not an easy thing to do. Devin has a role. We're asking, hey, can Devin do more than what he's already doing? And that role is pretty important. He's in a third and long situation when you're trying to get off the field. That's not like no one's here to downplay the Devin Sanchez role, especially not me, who's been calling him little Jalen Ramsey for the past 2 years. But yeah, that's what it is. I think Lorenzo Styles is going to start. The way Ryan Day was talking about that back end and how Jalen McClain and Caleb Downs next to each other, they feel that feels right. Having Lorenzo in there feel like they're going to start Lorenzo, and Devin's going to have a package, and it'll be the third and long situations when they go with the 6 DBs on the field. That'll be his role, and then next year he'll be a starting cornerback here, and that's perfectly okay. Everybody can't do the JJ thing where your first year here, you're the best player in the world already. Any other football things we want to talk about before we take a break?
I know we spent a lot of time obviously talking about the running game. It didn't feel like we got anything necessarily new on that front.
Is he pleased with the run game? Are his answers, and he's not, I think we're asking him yes or no questions with the run game, and he's providing context answers. I think we're asking good questions about it. I think Austin Ward asked a question, and the whole point of his question was like, we're all freaking out about this thing. Should we be freaking out about this thing? Is this actually a big deal? Does Ryan Day seem on edge about how they're running the ball right now?
It feels like the answer is no, because I don't think teams are necessarily defending Ohio State any differently. And I think if Ohio State was running the ball well, I'm not sure how differently they would be defending it. And I wonder if he's looking at it being like, I don't know, we're still running our offense, whether our running game is peak or whether it's struggling a bit, our offense is still able to move. And I think the context of talking about that, like he was talking about RPOs and how basically if Julian has the option, he hits JJ on an 8-yard hitch. That's still a successful play. It didn't go down as a run. The play is built off of, hey, there's a defender that's worried Ohio State might be running it there, and now it helps JJ get a little bit open. Until Ohio State's running an RPO where I guess everyone's just selling out on the pass and Ohio State's getting nothing on the run every time they do it. But it seems to me like for someone who understands what's being called on a certain play, he's looking at it saying, hey, this play was still successful, even if our last run play was a 2-yard gain or something.
Yeah, he's said that for multiple years now. Like the RPOs are extensions of the run game. Those he calls the bubble screens long handoffs. So it's not just like, did you hand the ball off to a running back?
Kalen DeBoer's kind of made his money off that. Like,
yeah,
I remember at Indiana, especially at Washington, those screens to receivers, like he'd consider that the running game. If the running game's not working, okay, I'm going to throw a screen, and you still got to defend the field horizontally.
Yeah, because then it spreads out a defense, and then now you can start attacking them through the middle, which is why you do it. Which is why sometimes the whole balance of play calling thing, I think we can't go too far one way with that. When it's like, I mean, we called 60 plays, 30 of them were RPOs, and our quarterback pulled it and threw it every single time. We called 60 plays, we called 30 RPOs, and our quarterback decided he was going to give it 25 of those 30 times. So it's like we called a play that could have been either one of those things. And so that's how Julian Sand threw 42 passes against Wisconsin. There were probably only, I would say, 25 of those where it was like a straight up drop back pass, and then another 15 or so that were, you can do either one of these. And because I love quarterbacks. Like CJ was like this, where I'm definitely pulling this and throwing it. Just like Justin Fields was I'm pulling and I'm running. CJ Stroud and Julian Sanders, I'm pulling, I'm launching this bad boy. And I love it. That's a guy who gets me. He said our execution level has got to increase across the board. He says the run game has been good, but it hasn't been great. And I think that the thing he described in terms of the running back, Andrews, is the first 4 yards are on the team. After that, you got to trust your God-given ability, which is essentially our plays are designed to get you to the second level, and then you need to be the dude we recruited you to be, which I'm fine with. Is good not great enough is my question.
Yes, good not great is absolutely enough for this offense. One of the things I've been meaning to do is to go back and kind of look at some of the teams that have won national championships. Like, they haven't been elite running the ball. Like, Navy's not winning a national championship, right? Like, the teams that are, number 1, number 2, number 3 are not, just dominant in that level of carrying the ball. So absolutely, good, not great is fine. Like, I just looked this up as I was talking. Do you guys know how many yards per carry Michigan averaged when they won the national championship in 23?
Like 5 point something.
4.5, which is 52nd in the country. So like, think about what you personally think about that Michigan team, and like, think about them just being like, they bash you over the head and they're going to run the ball right down your throat and blah, blah, blah. And like, look, they did that, like they were certainly that. They were 53rd in rush attempts in the country. They had 37.53. And like, again, Air Force, Army, Navy, like there were teams at the top of that list that obviously are up there. But like, good, not great for this team is deadly. Like, truthfully, I think a better question is mediocre, not great, good enough? And I think I think you could get away with it. I think if you can have an average, mediocre, nothing special to it run game, I still think this team can be good enough running the football to win something of significance.
I think the better your run game, the more opportunities it'll give you in the pass game, because teams won't just play too high against you the entire time. I think the thing that's missing from this run game right now is just the explosiveness, which is what Ryan Day keeps talking about. Ohio State has 31 plays in the run game of 31 yards or longer. They have 4 plays of 20-plus yards, 3 runs of 30-plus yards, 2 of 40, 2 of 50, and then a 60-plus yard run. And then if you look at their running backs individually, apparently they have 4 running backs now. Bo Jackson's longest run is 64 yards. CJ Donaldson's longest run is 27 yards. James Peoples' longest run is 33 yards. And now Isaiah West, his longest run is 15 yards. I think they would like to have more 20-yard runs, more 15-yard runs, right? I think that's where the explosiveness you're talking about, which is why he keeps talking about the first 4 yards are on us, and then after that, use your God-giving ability. I think the offensive line needs to do a better job of getting those first 4 yards. I think the running backs, though, when they get those first 4 yards, he is actively calling out to them to, I don't know, it's a bunch of 4 stars, highly rated dudes, top 150 recruits, and a veteran from West Virginia. I don't know. Can you play like an Ohio State running back? Is that too much to ask? And I think that's a fair thing to ask, because good, not great, I agree with you, Gillis. That's enough. As long as you have this element, this explosive element that seems to be missing right now.
Healthy Bo Jackson.
Healthy Bo. And that may be all it takes is healthy Bo Jackson, and all of a sudden you get that. He does have a 64-yard run, so we know he can do it. And that's not saying get a 60-yard run every single game. That's not a realistic expectation. But I don't know. If you pop one for 20 every 15 runs, I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation to have for him.
There's probably some people listening to this pod saying, can you pop one for 8?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah. If you turn 2nd and 10 into 3rd and 3.
That's what I'm saying. Can we have a 2nd and 2, please? So we can play action deep shot that bad boy down to 4 and 17. Okay. That's the ball talk. I don't know if there's any more football talk.
I don't think so. There was no. What are the topics that we normally hit on at Ryan Day's press conferences? Special teams. Did you talk about
Did Ryan Day mention Julian Sain in this presser? Was Julian?
Thinking that. I don't think
he did. When he was talking about the run game, he brought up the fact that Julian has kept it a couple times the last couple of weeks.
You're right.
So which is a good thing because it can show that he will run. I mean, it's not obviously his he can run enough to buy time, but it showed that he could run, and that was it. I mean, I don't know what do you want him to say. My quarterback's good?
He went I don't know. We just went through a Ryan Day press conference, and it feels like we didn't really talk about the second Heisman favorite.
Not the last time we talked to him, because we had 10 minutes with him during the bye week, but the time before that, he literally had to stop us from asking about Julian Sain because he was like, "Hey guys, the defense pitched a shutout. Let me talk about them." It's just kind of weird.
Is Julian?
We talked more about Penn State's quarterback than we did Julian Sain.
That's a fair point.
Yeah,
which is kind of he gave a cool story or a great quote from Penn State's pressers where he was just talking about how he always dreamed of playing at Ohio Stadium and things like that.
Yeah, because Penn State keeps bringing in Ohio quarterbacks. Ohio State doesn't recruit, and then it never works.
Well, because Ohio State, to be fair, it wasn't like Ohio State just said no thanks to some of these kids.
I know they said no thanks because
these kids said no thanks. Yeah, Ohio State goes and gets their own.
No, that's why I said Penn State keeps getting Ohio quarterbacks that Ohio State doesn't want.
Yeah.
There's obvious reasons for why they didn't go get those guys. They didn't take Grunkemeyer because they had Dylan Raiola, and then they turned that into Aaron Nolan, who are both rated higher than Ethan Grunkemeyer. They didn't take Sean Clifford because they didn't take there's other. I think that was Dwayne Haskins. I think that was Dwayne, or it might have been Tate Martell. I don't remember that one off the top of my head. They didn't take Drew Aller because they had Quinn Ewers at the time. They didn't, so it is what it is. Okay, let's take a break, and then I want to talk about Angry Ryan Day here on Buckeye Talk.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis after Ryan Day's press conference on Tuesday. Get the text 614-350-3315. It's a 2-week free trial, $3.99. After that, we were texting all these things as they were happening. And also, go watch our YouTube channel. We go live every Wednesday at 11 this week. We're projecting the Big Ten tiers. We got 6 different categories that we're projecting these guys to be in. Those categories are going to be Natty or Bust, CFP or Bust, Potential Sleepers, Endangered Species, Rebuilding, and the Hopeless. Those are our tiers, and then we're projecting it out like where we think things are headed based on what is happening right now. And there's a Big Ten team that doesn't have a head coach. There's maybe others who may be out the door. There's other teams who have, if we'd have done this 10 years ago, they probably would have been in the hopeless category. And now all of a sudden they're in the Natty or Bust category. It should be a fun time. Producer Brennan is doing some cool stuff too. So come join us. Ryan, I got asked about Jim Knowles. Him leaving. It was abrupt, but we certainly respect the work that he did when he was here. On his leaving for Penn State specifically, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, just about how college football and how it's changed and the money and everything like that. It's just you're seeing some things that maybe we're just not used to. But I guess when you look at the NFL, you're seeing more of that than you would in college. But I guess we're getting more like the NFL. So we try not to take those things personal, but we are human. I think that last sentence is the most intriguing thing that we heard the entire day, because it's why the line is up to 20.5. Tell me why I am wrong to think that Ryan Day is going to try, and he's not going to go out of his way, but he might run up the score on Saturday.
I think we might see Ohio State's full offense, which will result in running up the score.
Yeah, I don't think this is hey, Ohio State's dominated and they're up 41-7, and then he goes for 2, and then he gets to the postgame presser and he pulls the Woody because I couldn't go for 3. I don't think it's going to be that ugly. I don't think they're going for it on 4th and goal with 10 seconds left and they're calling timeouts up 28 to try to score again. I don't think it's that, but I think Stefan's exactly right. I think this is a all gas. And once we hit the second half and we're dominating, maybe we keep it on a little bit, but we're not going to go out of our way to embarrass anybody. I think that's probably the way that I'm looking at this. I think the full complement of the Buckeye offense is going to be available. I'm
choosing irresponsibility right now. I'm just putting that as a disclaimer. Why not? Why aren't we going to see that? He's not going to go for 2, obviously. That's just, I don't even know if Woody ever actually said that, but 4th and goal with
people listening to this podcast, he did. To Ohio State fans, he did.
But 4th and goal with, 30 seconds left. They went for it. I mean, they scored. Like Travion Henderson literally slid after an explosive run against Indiana, and they still had a QB sneak to get into the end zone to score a touchdown when they didn't have to do that. And he had no personal interest in Kirk Cignetti at all. Why isn't he going to do those things?
Did you think that was running up the score, or Ohio State just playing 60 minutes?
I think that was Ryan. I think that was just Ohio State playing 60 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think Ohio State's offense, the full playbook is going to be open, and as a result, they're going to play 60 minutes of FU football.
Right, but when does the playbook close? Because that's the thing about because even Indiana versus Illinois, you've brought this up a couple of times. Yes, they outscored them by 53 points, but it's not like they were throwing the ball deep into the 3rd and 4th quarter. They just were. It was explosive runs. So that's you beat them by 53 on accident. You won the game soundly, but you didn't mean to beat them by 53 points.
Yeah, that's true.
Ohio State didn't mean to beat Indiana by as much as they beat them last year. It just kind of worked out that way. That's what I'm saying. There is a difference between, sure, they're going to open up the playbook and there's nothing Penn State can do about it. So all of a sudden they're winning the game 35-6, right? When they beat Michigan State in 2021, when they were up like 42-6 or something like that at halftime, that was just a byproduct of them playing football. And Michigan State had the worst passing defense in the country. That is a different conversation than what I am asking right now. I am asking, so we try to not take those things personal, but we are human. I am asking you about Ryan Day, the human, Ryan Day, the competitor, Ryan Day, who, as we all know at this point, nobody was happy with the way Jim Knowles left here. There aren't a lot of times when Ryan Day has moments to act out on something he has taken personally because he's a human. He did it with Clemson after the Fiesta Bowl in 2019, the way he ran through them in the Sugar Bowl the next year. That was personal. They had the score up in the weight room the entire year. That was personal for them. Michigan's a different story, and unfortunately, some of this is his fault. He has not been able to have his lick back, and we'll see what happens at the end of this month. But why isn't he going to run up the score? Why does it have to just be because it's football? Like, there can't be a little. This is what college football is. There's emotion to it. There can't be a little extra motivation on Saturday to make sure. Like, instead of them winning the game 33-6, which they could easily do, they could win this game 33-6. Why not go win the game 48?
Well, my question would be, what's the difference between what Stefan is saying and what you're saying? Because what Stefan is saying is, hey, the playbook's open. We're in the second half of the year now. Everybody's comfortable. We know our roles. Let it fly. Do what we do best. And what's the difference between what he's saying and what you're saying, where it's like, twist the knife on him, go get him? Like, what fundamentally is different from those two things?
One is kicking a horse. One is beating a dead horse, and the other one is killing the horse.
Yeah, but we were just talking about that play against Indiana. Like, was that twisting the knife, rubbing it in, running it up?
Was just a byproduct. No, that was a byproduct of football.
Yeah, so I think we could see that.
No, I know. I'm saying, why does it just have to be a byproduct of football? Because again, that was a run play.
That's what I'm asking. Like, what would the twist the knife, run it up look like? That's different from just we played a full 60 minutes.
An unnecessary play action deep shot when the game is
like when you're up like 31-3 in the fourth quarter. Like,
yeah.
Okay, like I get that.
Or
I think
like,
that's fair.
Or you score your first. He did this to Maryland in 2019, and there's been this like long thing with the beat of it's never been proven or anything. But when Chase Young got suspended, there are people who think that Mike Locksley had a little bit of something to do with why that got revealed that Chase Young had taken some money to help get somebody to the Rose Bowl. Like that's a thing. That's like a thing. And so when Ryan Day comes out against Maryland and he scores on the first possession, and then he kicks an onside kick, and it's 7-0. Like there was no reason to kick an onside kick. But it's like it's again, these things have never been proven. They're kind of like these like myths on the beat of things that like word around town type of things. But like I don't know, it adds a little bit of juice of like maybe Mike Locksley, because why are you kicking an onside kick at 7-0? And then when you get asked about it, you go, "Oh, we were always planning to do that." Well, you haven't done it all year, and you haven't done it in any game since. I
think what I'm looking at is I think I somewhat agree. I think it's going to be interesting if this game does get out of hand. Like the game, like I don't know what the over under is, but the line is 20.5. So, Vegas is kind of telling us they think this game, I don't know, like again, I'm just getting 31-10, 38-17, something like that, depending on what the over under is. I think my barometer of that is going to be how long certain dudes stay in the game, because it's an interesting dynamic, because like you're saying about like, we're all human, and that quote, I think that's a fair point to make of like, hey, maybe Ohio State tries to rub it in a little bit, but you also need to remember that this is your 8th game of the year. Yeah. And your goal is to play 16. So it's like, okay, is it worth it having JJ out there 31-0 saying like, let's make it 38-0? I didn't say like, JJ. Is it worth it to have certain guys out there in certain spots? Or that to me, I think is maybe going to be a decent barometer of this, because if it was, Purdue the following week, if they're up 31-0 in the third quarter, yeah, we're seeing Mylan Graham catch passes and Quincy Porter catch passes. And in comes Peyton Pierce to start at linebacker first. Like, we're going to see a little bit of rotation like we did at Wisconsin. Like that, I think that's a great example. Like the Wisconsin game, we saw rotation when that game was in the first half. And I think Ohio State knew what was going on there. With this, I don't know. And that to me is the barometer. It's not hey, we were just calling plays. Like James Franklin did this to Maryland a year or two ago, where James Franklin does not like Maryland because of what happened to him at Maryland. Penn State and Maryland have always had this like weird kind of, we're rivals, but not really, but Maryland hates us, but blah, blah, blah. They've always kind of had this weird dynamic, and James Franklin was running plays at the end of the game to try to score. That I think is the more common thought of running it up. I'm curious to see if and when the game gets out of hand, who comes out and when they do. I think that's our best.
I also just think Ohio State has 5 receivers who could easily go catch a deep shot against this team. So it doesn't have to be JJ. Mylan Graham can do it.
What if it's not running up the score? What if it's 31-0 and I'm still sending Arvell Reese on a blitz to show you how you should have used your linebackers?
That's what I'm saying. Like it's he didn't have to say that today. He could have kept the diplomatic answer. We'd have known he was lying, obviously. He didn't. Okay, but like coaches lie all the time. He didn't have to lean into like, we all know that it rubbed people the wrong way, the way Jim Knowles got out of here. He didn't need to say that today to validate that. Okay, so why did he do it? Why did he say it?
I guess there is a nice element here of if Ryan Day does want to run up the score, he's literally just doing it to Jim Knowles. Like, he doesn't have to apologize to James Franklin, who I think he does respect. Like if James Franklin's on the other sideline, I think there's an element of like, all right, like you can take the foot off the gas. Like that's I respect that guy over there. He's been doing this for X amount of years. Granted, if James Franklin was still coaching Penn State, they would be in a better spot, right? If he was still there, that means that they beat UCLA, they beat Northwestern.
It means they have like
this is a different motive. It's just like I want to beat the guy who left me.
Yeah. It's
literally I want to beat the brakes off the guy who left me.
Yeah, because running up the score on Terry Smith and whatever, like he's not going to be a head coach next year.
I just listen, man. I think because it's been in my head, like the Notre Dame thing he did in 23 wasn't just random. He did that for like that wasn't about Notre Dame. That was about the game at the end of the year. And unfortunately, he hasn't been able to do that at the end of the year. Okay, well, here's another little carrot for you. Ryan Day is a little loose, a little screwy up there, which is what you want in a competitor. You don't want a dude who's all buttoned up all the time. You want a dude who's got a little bit of edge to him. And Ryan Day,
he talked about how he loved the coaching carousel. It's all competition, and he loves that his assistants are being brought up as candidates.
Exactly. So I don't think
as a competitor, you want that.
Right. So I don't think there's anything wrong with when Ryan Day shows these little moments of just how competitive of a person he is. And I think this is what this can be on Saturday. And it doesn't mean you go out there and you win 80-0 and Julian Sand throws the ball 60-0, but you can, I am almost anticipating a little sprinkle. What's up?
I'm thinking about this now. It's like you're up 31-3. There's 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And the game is all but over.
Yeah, like what do you do?
I'm thinking about it like it might be a little more subtle than just like we called this. We backed out a run of the ball. We threw it deep to JJ when it was 34-0. It might be like we put our second team offense out there and we let them sling it around. And Jim Knowles couldn't even stop Ohio State's second team offense. And then you know what Ryan Day says? He doesn't say, of course we had to do this, because somebody would ask him at the postgame press conference. He goes, hey, Lincoln Kienholz is a great quarterback. He's got to get reps. We had to get him going. We had to let him see it. And our second team guys, they showed what they could. And he does like the very subtle, our second team guys are better than that team's first team. Like the guy that left us, his best defense, his number one defense, can't even stop our second team. I think it might be something like that as I think of it.
What if it's maybe I'll lean into it, Stephen. What if it's not subtle? What if it's Brandon Ennis throwing a pass? It's 20.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is college football, man. Everything don't gotta be. I understand we're actively NFLizing the sport, but there is still emotion to college sports that does not always exist in the professional world all the time. It does sometimes, not all the time. It's okay to like, hey, man. And it could be nothing, right? They could just go win the game 27-3, and that's that. And that's fine. I'm just not going to be shocked if they do something out there and we're going, you didn't need to do that. But I know why you did it.
Feels like Ohio State's one of the few teams that can still do that. With how leveled out the sport is. Like, I mean, we talked about this before we went to Illinois, where you were like, Notre Dame's pissed at USC and they're trying to get rid of the rivalry. And like Marcus Freeman's going to run it up. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, is Notre Dame that much better that they can run it up? They obviously weren't. You know what I mean? Like
10,
Ohio State can run it up on Penn State if they want.
I think Ohio State is probably the only team left who can, because it's just because of the way they've retained their roster in a way that everybody else has not retained their roster. They still have and we'll see if they can continue to do that. Right, this is a year in year out thing, but they are the only team in the country right now who has a deep enough roster that some of the things that used to apply when you're a more talented team still applies. And that's, again, who knows if that will continue to be the case. But they got a bunch of dudes on this roster where like the Kenyatta Jackson at Oregon's not sticking around for a fourth year. The Caden Curry at Texas A&M is not sticking around for 4 years when he didn't play as much in his first 3. It's just not the way college football works anymore. Yeah. Guys move on way too quickly. So, yeah, there's an element here of, do I think he might do something on Saturday? That's a little more emotional based than it is just about the X's and O's. Yes, I do. But do I also think from an X's and O's standpoint, they have the capability of doing so? Yeah, because I think they're going to win this game by 3 scores. So what's 2 more scores? That's just what I'm thinking.
4 score and Ryan Day ago.
Last thing.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Sean Bean and Connie Nielsen star in Robin Hood, a timeless legend reimagined, where allegiances are tested and kingdoms hang in the balance. The saga begins with a double episode premiere November 2nd, only on MGM+.
Who is Ohio State's offensive coordinator in 8 months?
Mike McDaniel, is he the coach of the Dolphins?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start naming.
Yeah, no, in all seriousness, but in all seriousness, like I mean, Brian Hartline's like the whole he might leave thing isn't going away anytime soon. So we've kind of reached that point here of, and these are big boy jobs. It doesn't mean he's going to say yes to any of these jobs, because I think he can wait until he finds the right fit for him. But these are still big boy jobs where it's a different conversation when it's Penn State and LSU and like Florida and, you know, I guess maybe Auburn if they ever decide to fire Hugh Freeze. This is a big boy carousel, right? I mean, there's reports out there that Steve Sarkisian's headed back to the NFL. These are not small people jobs. So it's okay for us to like at least have the conversation, even if it's a short conversation of, do we think when Ohio State takes the field against Ball State next August 31st or August 30th, whatever that day is Brian Hartline the offensive coordinator still?
I lean toward yes. I've kind of maintained this year that it feels like Hartline maybe needs one more year of calling plays before Big Boy Job takes a shot on him. And I do think, I'm just curious with the carousel, is there a team in a position to take Brian Hartline? Because I don't think he would leave for, like, I think he's going to have good options in his career. So, like, when West Virginia popped up last year, it kind of felt like, I mean, he could wait and get something better than that.
Yeah.
And now we're in this weird spot where it's like, between Penn State, LSU, and Florida, one of those programs is going to have to sell its fans on a first-time coach. And are either of those programs in a position for that? Like, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Like, people talk about LSU. It's like Kiffin and Freeman are like the first names that come up. And it's like, okay, is LSU looking for a proven guy in order to, convince its fans? Or are their fans going to buy into a first-time coach? That's an interesting part of this. So I lean toward, I think one more year of prove it for Hartline would probably be what some of these bigger jobs would look for. Like Penn State's the one that's obviously being rumored a ton right now. I'm sure LSU is going to there's going to be some steam to that. I think Hartline at Florida would do an awesome job and recruit the hell out of Florida. But like there haven't really been any reports or anything linking the two together. So no. I don't know. I lean toward Hartline being back another year.
I'm the same way. I do think like I am interested to know like, and we will never, I don't think, find out. I'm just interested about it. Like I'm interested to know what is like the limit to what Hartline, if he were to bounce, would take. Like let's say this is all hypothetical. Like if Cincinnati opened, is Cincinnati a job in the Big 12? They're having a really good year. Is that a job that he would take? Would he go to the Big 12 to be their head coach? I don't know. Is this, would he go to the right Big 12 or ACC job, or is it Big 10 and SEC or bust? I don't know. And I think that's the thing that is interesting about this whole conversation. Cause like Stephen, you said it best during one of our videos, like assistant coaches are rented basically. You could have a head coach for a very long time if that dude is good enough and that dude wants to stay. Assistant coaches are a revolving door to some degree. Some of them get better jobs. Some of them get fired. Some of them get promoted and they're in a different spot. Like, it's a constantly evolving musical chairs dance. And I am interested to know like what Hartline deems as acceptable. And I think that would be illuminating because you're right, Stefan, like there are some programs out here that kind of need to win the press conference. I don't think LSU's an option because like Scott Woodward, their AD, was like, we gotta hit the right culture and we gotta find the culture. It basically saying we want a Southern guy to be our head coach. We want a guy who's not gonna get out there and fake a Southern accent. That's what basically he's saying. But like, is Penn State, are they, it's just, I'll say this to just simplify it. It's got to be the right fit for him. It's got to be the right job for him. It's got to be the right fit for the school. It's got to be the right timing for the school to say, we could take a first-time head coach. It's got to be the right timing for him to say, I can take over this as a first-time head coach. And he is in a position to where he has the luxury, I think, to wait. Because I don't think Ohio State's going to be rushing him out the door anytime soon. I don't think Ohio State's going to be saying, hey, Brian, like, we're getting up on this. This is a Knowles situation. You got to go. Like, we're not getting along, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think Ohio State would hang on to Brian Hartline as long as they want and as long as they can. But Hartline has that ability to be able to wait. and to be able to wait for the right moment to pounce. And I think
How long,
he's going to
though?
be here.
How long?
Be here next year. I think
I agree with you that he can wait, and I said that with West Virginia, but it's like, how many better offers would you get than Penn State? Like, I'm genuinely, I'm not saying he's going to leave and bolt for Penn State, but it's like, what are you waiting for if you're not waiting for Penn State?
And and that's a good question. All right, Penn State, like what if this cycle is so nuts, so off the wire, LSU, Florida, Penn State, Nebraska, all these schools open, like let's say rule go whatever, like all these jobs are open. Like unless something happens, like there might not be a good cycle the next year, and there might not be the right fit the next year. And the next year it's like, oh, well, USC's open, but USC, are they going to want another offensive minded guy? I don't know. Like, I do think that's a good point. It's like, you might not be ready for it, or you might not think that it was your time, but there might not be another better opportunity than certain opportunities that present themselves sooner than you think.
Yeah, the domino effect too is like, what if Lanning goes to LSU? And it's like, I don't know, you're going to turn down Oregon?
Oh God, Oregon. I think Oregon comes to Ohio Stadium next year. I think in 26. Brian Hartline, head coach of the Oregon Ducks at Ohio State, would be something. But yeah, you're right. Like the domino effect of this is interesting because you wonder if a certain school is going to look at it and say, I would like the next Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Emeka Egbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Will. Like, if you could just bring in that, we can figure out the rest from there. And you wonder if a team is going to just pop out of nowhere maybe and make that decision.
So a couple of things. I think the day Brian Hartline does leave is going to be the ultimate chicken or the egg with these wide receivers. Like, how much of it is Brian Hartline? How much of it is Day in this offense and the quarterbacks? Because, yeah, this is unheard of what we're seeing from Brian Hartline, but it's not like Ohio State's receivers stunk before Brian Hartline was a wide receivers coach, right? Like Michael Thomas, Chris Carter is a Hall of Famer, David Boston. This is not even the first time they've had multiple first rounders on the same team, right? Ted Ginn Jr. and Anthony Gonzalez and Santonio Holmes were all on the same team at one point. So it's there's an element here of, I saw somebody say this, like maybe they don't get Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Dennis, and Carnell Tate without Brian Hartline, but it's not like Ohio State would not have been in consideration at all. The South Florida thing is more prominent because Brian Hartline, that's where his best playing days as an NFL player were, is playing for the Miami Dolphins. So, of course, he built a bunch of great relationships. But South Florida, especially the people who run a lot of the football, like the South Florida Express, those people have had relationships with Ohio State since the Jim Tressel days. Santonio Holmes is from South Florida. We're going to do the same exercise with Matt Patricia in a second. Kirby Smart was at Alabama for 9 years, and he was the defensive coordinator for 8 of those years. And I'm sure he could have left before he did. But he waited for something that was perfect for him, and that was Georgia. And clearly that's worked out in his favor, right? Georgia's one of the best programs in the country. He's got 2 national championships. Brian Hartline is currently in his 9th year at Ohio State, but this is only his first year as the play-calling defensive coordinator. I think there's a lot of parallels between those two, even if it's a little bit opposite of. They're both very, very, very involved in very much one of the main reasons responsible for a very elite group with a team. I think he is to Ryan Day what Kirby Smart was to Nick Saban. The difference is Brian Hartline can't go home. Like, he's not waiting on his home because he's at home already. But I think the place where Brian Hartline has the edge, Kirby Smart's edge, where he was there for 9 years and 8 of them, he was the guy, he was the DC, and Brian Hartline's been an OC for 3 years, but he's only been the play calling OC for 1 year and for 7 games, really. I think the difference there is the thing we're all overlooking is he's not climbing the ladder. He's not in the rat race because he's an NFL player who was a damn good NFL player. So he made a lot of money. So he doesn't have to chase anything he doesn't want. So even the conversation of like how many jobs are going to open up that are better than Penn State, probably, I don't know, maybe one does, maybe one doesn't. I think this coaching carousel also might be setting a new standard for, what athletic directors are willing to put up with, right? So I don't know, this might become the norm where every year there's like a couple of top flight jobs that open up, right? Like if Penn State just fired James Franklin, and I'm not saying this, Andrew, because I think Dan Lanning is even close to being on the hot seat, but how many more years does Dan Lanning get to the playoff and not win a playoff game before that gets interesting, right? And then how many more years before USC isn't where USC needs to be, before Lincoln Riley is no longer at USC, right? Like
Kalen DeBoer is still like 1 loss away from being right back on the hot seat.
You were ready to kick Kalen DeBoer out of Tuscaloosa a month ago, and now we're saying that like they're one of the 4 best teams in college football. So I think the only people who are safe right now are the coaches with jewelry. And that's 3 dudes. And one of those guys just got safe because he just got his jewelry 10 months ago.
Yeah,
one of those guys is Dabo, and they're not particularly thrilled with him either.
Because he's like the best thing that's ever happened to Clemson.
There is like you're saying, there is this bigger picture. I think it goes beyond this like Hartline thing. It's what, like you said, what are ADs willing to put up with? And there are now different expectations at different programs,
right?
Because of the 12-team. Like, and people are going to look to the Indiana Hoosiers and say, they did it. Why can't we? And whether or not they're in La La Land thinking that, maybe, but people are going to think it. People are going to look and say that can be
right.
us.
But the larger point that I'm very slowly getting here to, he doesn't have to just jump the way that people in the rat race would jump. He's made a lot of money in the NFL, and he's at home. Again, he's from Canton. He went to school here. He's got young kids in school here. Like they got a life here. He doesn't have to do anything. Is he going to continue to take interviews every offseason? Of course he is, because it's good for him to get that experience doing that. And he has an agent who would flip out if he didn't do those things. If Brian Hartline weren't on these lists every time a coach got fired, he'd have a new agent already. So that's like part of that. But he doesn't have to leave any earlier than he's just like, I don't know, when does he leave? When he's ready to leave. Regardless of what the job is, whenever he's ready to leave. Maybe that's now. I don't think it's going to be now. I think he'll be the offensive coordinator next year. I think he's here as long as Jeremiah Smith is here as well. But also Chris Henry Jr. is about to walk in the door. Jameer Brown's coming in the door later on, right? But his description is so unique that it's not just as simple as, oh, the LSU job opened up. The Penn State job opened up. Oh, the USC job just opened up. He's at home and he's made a lot of money, so he's not chasing anything. He's here working at his alma mater, winning championships, working for a guy that's like a mentor to him. Him and Keenan Bailey are like brothers at this point. So it's that extra element I think might keep him around. Whatever my answer is to what year I think he'll leave, I'll add 2 more seasons on it just because of that. Because again, the human part of this does matter a little bit more. So when we talked to him after the first bye week, I did notice he was a little bit more, he sounded like an OC than he did like a position coach. Other side of that coin, and the reason I'm bringing this one up is because I think Ohio State is financially ready to do whatever is necessary to keep as many of these coaches in Columbus as many years as possible. Is that a fair assessment based on the way Ryan Day talked today?
Yes.
And like
it's a fair assessment also with the money that Ohio State had. Like
right.
they were paying Knowles and he just decided to
But also, I mean, Stefan, you've had enough conversations with Ross Bureau. Does it seem like he's going to get cheap when it comes to paying these assistants?
No.
Okay.
I don't think the pool of assistant coach salaries for Ryan Day is not limited.
Okay. So is Matt Patricia, Ohio State's defensive coordinator, on September? The game is on September 5th, 2026. Is Matt Patricia still a defensive coordinator on September 5th, 2026?
I'm going to steal your thing. I literally think it comes down to Matt Patricia, the human.
Yeah.
When he was on the radio show last week, filling in for Ryan Day, like he genuinely made it sound like he wanted to coach college football. Like this was not a 33rd NFL team, the actual 33rd NFL team, not where Bill Belichick is. The actual 33rd NFL team wanted a coordinator, and no NFL team wanted one. It almost this is the way he talked. Now, if you don't believe it, then that coaches lie. But the way that he talked, like presented it as in, I want to coach in college football. And I don't necessarily get the vibe that he wants to be a head coach in college football yet. Maybe that is a dream of his. Maybe that's something he wants to do. But he wants his kids to experience college football after growing up around the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no real safer place to do it than being a damn good defensive coordinator at Ohio State. And when you have the assistant staff around him doing what they do in terms of recruiting and stuff like that, makes his job a little easier. He gets to do the Chip Kelly thing where, hey, I forgot how much I love X's and O's and not having to do everything else after being a head coach in the NFL. If you had asked me in August, I would say, probably not. There'll be a DC job open in the NFL and he'll probably take that. The way he talked about it, like, I don't think this is Matt Patricia just taking the best job available because there was no NFL job for him. It sounded to me like he wanted to get back into college football, and Ohio State presented the best opportunity possible to do that.
And you're dealing with a bunch of dudes that are going to be in the NFL in the next 4 years anyway. Andrew's Matt Patricia on September 5th, 2026, coordinating Ohio State's defense against Ball State.
I think he's on the Chip Kelly track. I love Ohio State. I love being here. I love these kids. This has reinvigorated me, blah, blah, blah. I think you're going to get a lot of that. But I also think he is coordinating the best defense in college. And I think he has done enough to where you look at his resume and say, he was the DC for Belichick. He was under Belichick for a while. He's not a good head coach in the NFL. He can't do that because the Lions thing just blew up spectacularly awful. And again, maybe he's learned from that and maybe he could be a head coach one day. But like, you start to look at his resume holistically, and this just might change things where it's like, well, you know what? Maybe he deserves a chance to be an NFL defensive coordinator. And I think as we saw with Chip Kelly, because Chip Kelly got paid too, like Chip Kelly got a lot of money. And like, I think there is just this allure of the NFL that might be too strong. And I think because there's 32 of those jobs out there, that I think he would like to get back to the NFL. And I don't think he'll be around for another year. It wouldn't like stun me if he was, because again, you are at a place where you are going to have more talent than the other team 99% of the time. And like the Oregon game next year maybe is talent equated, like, but really everything else, you're going to have a better defense than the other team does offense in terms of talent and speed and physicality and size and everything like that. So I get the allure of staying, but I wonder if there's a halfway decent NFL defensive coordinator job that he can put his name out there for. I think that might be too strong of a pull for him to say no to.
I think what's interesting is Matt Patricia was talking about his intrigue with college football before Ohio State became a thing.
When he was on Edelman's podcast?
Yeah, when he went on Edelman's podcast, and it was just like and obviously, we weren't paying that much attention to it because you're not thinking, oh, we're going to be covering this guy in about 2 months here. But this was like way before. So the thing he was saying was like, it's gotten so similar with some of the stuff that's happened that it's a more feasible thing to want to do that. And I think the reason it stood out is because he was saying that in a world where there were actively head coaches in college football, like Jeff Hafley leaving to go be coordinators in the NFL. And I think that's where Andrew Gillis's sentiment is coming from, is that we're seeing this happen. Head coaches at programs are like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to go pro. I don't think Ryan Day was expecting Chip Kelly to be here any longer than a year. I think Chip Kelly was the perfect person for Day to have a moment of growth as a head coach, but also Brian Hartline was maybe a year away from being ready to be the play caller. And so it was almost like a perfect marriage. I don't think this is that. I'm going to say Matt Patricia is still here. And it's in part because I think Ohio State is very much preparing to do whatever it takes to keep Matt Patricia in Columbus. Like the money that Jim Knowles was looking for, I think Matt Patricia is going to get it after this season. So if your concern is, I don't know, maybe they don't know, I think they're going to pay Matt Patricia. I mean, you see what this defense is doing? Holy cow. Holy moly. It's also just the operation's going better than expected. Did anybody think he was going to be a recruiter?
Not really.
Like, you probably thought it was going to be like Jim Knowles all over again. Like, your job is just a scheme. And it's not, I'm not saying he's not the lead recruiter or anybody, but I don't know. There have been plenty of recruits who have come out and said, like, yeah, Matt Patricia, he's awesome. That guy is involved.
Puts his rings
on the table. I
don't
don't know how many times you said what?
Puts his rings on the table.
He does. But it also just, maybe we're drinking the juice a little bit too much right now.
Well, I think
this has not gone regardless of the product on the field, the entire operation has gone very different than I think any of us expected it to go. To now, it's opened your idea of maybe this isn't how he's trying to revive himself just to get back to the NFL. Maybe he feels like his purpose is now in college football. And Ohio State provides a world of both how Ryan Day runs this program, but also the talent where you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Well, yeah, and I think that there's a big difference, too, with the Chip Kelly thing, where it was like Chip had been in the college game and was basically telling us, like, I don't like where this is going. I want to get out. I took a step down just because I can call plays, and now I'm going back to the NFL, where Patricia's the opposite route. He was in the NFL and talking about how he wants to get into college. Chip Kelly was telling us, I do not want to be in college football anymore. There is no NFL job for me in late February. Okay, I'll take this job at Ohio State. I'll be the offensive coordinator for my friend, and then I'm out. Whereas
he was soft launching an NFL career. Yeah.
And he didn't. And Dave even told us he said no the first time around.
Yeah.
Which is how Bill O'Brien ended up here. That's a good point. Chip Kelly was telling us for a year he didn't want to be here anymore. While Matt Patricia was like, hey, this looks fun. This looks intriguing. This looks like a challenge I'm really kind of up for now. So I'll say yes, he is still here. How long he's here? I don't know the answer to that one. I mean, maybe it is just 2 years and he moves on. Maybe he's here for 10 years. Who knows? We thought Jim Knowles was going to be here for 10 years. And then after 3 years, he's like, I want to go home. But Ryan Day was very much emphasizing continuity a lot today. And he kind of answered a Brian Hartline question without answering a Brian Hartline question of like, no, the coaches don't have to tell me when they're doing these things, but you would just kind of hope they would. I hope he would tell me that these things are happening. But the Brian Hartline leaving conversation is now probably at the highest level it's going to be, because now he's a coordinator. And the only thing left to do is go be a head coach somewhere. Maybe that's here, maybe that's somewhere else. But yeah, that's what I learned today. How Ryan Day wants his program to run. I think he's going to run up the score on Saturday, and Tegra Shabola is still the starting right guard. That worked? That good summary for everybody?
And a partridge in a pear tree.
614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Join us on the live show at 11. We have a fun time. Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis. I'm Stephen Means. Talk to you later.
You know the words dominating today's headlines.
Private equity,
generative capital gains tax,
America's chip fueled by market volatility.
on Fed rate cuts are.
But do you understand how they impact your world and your wallet? In a world that skims the what, understand the why. Because context changes everything. Subscribe at Bloomberg.com.